Peace and Pan-Africanism, brothers and sisters. Peace and Pan-Africanism. This is your big brother, King Kong Consciousness, Intercontinental Ifa Tunde, Institution Builder Ifa Tunde, International Ifa Tunde, Intellectual Ifa Tunde, Notorious RBG, most requested and influential Black scholar and Pan-Africanist in the world. I want to offer some preliminary thoughts on the Buffalo Massacre. I want to offer some preliminary thoughts on the Buffalo Race Massacre. That's what I'm calling it. The Buffalo Race Massacre of 2022. Before I do that, I want to send deepest condolences. I want to send deepest condolences. I want to send deepest condolences to our family in Buffalo, the supermarket where I believe 11 Africans lost their life yesterday. So in the interest of solidarity and out of respect for African life, we're going to have a moment of silence right now, and I will commence my message. Ashe, ashe, ashe. May the ancestors guide them to the heavens. May the Most High forgive their fault. May the Most High forgive their faults. May the ancestors guide them to heaven. May the Most High forgive their faults. May the Most High expand their virtues. And may they come back with countless of other Africans. May they return to the earth, to Aye, with countless other African ancestors whose lives were also taken prematurely to aid us in the cause of African redemption. And then I will offer some more comprehensive thoughts on this situation as more information becomes available. First of all, if this incident yesterday did not wake up all Black people in this country, on this North American continent, I don't know what else will. A couple of points. I want to say this one right from the beginning because this has been a concern of mine since the last white boy decided to conduct a race massacre. The Charleston, South Carolina race massacre of June 17th, 2015. The Charleston, South Carolina race massacre of June 17th, 2015. Yesterday's Buffalo, New York race massacre was only 35 days short of the 7th anniversary of the Charleston race massacre. Let me say that again. Yesterday's Buffalo, New York race massacre was only 35 days short of the 7-year anniversary of the Charleston, South Carolina race massacre of June 17th, 2015. Number one, I've said this over and over again. I've been saying it since the Charleston race massacre of 2015. Black people are so colorblind, so apolitical, so in love with integration that we fail to secure ourselves in our places and in our persons. What I am saying, and I need you to understand, overstand, and understand me. What I am saying, and I want you to understand, overstand, and understand me. No non-African should be able to come in African space and not be questioned about their purpose. No non-African, I don't care if it's European, I don't care if it's Latino, I don't care if it's Arab, East Indian, Native American, no non-African should be allowed to come into African space and not be questioned as to their purpose for being there. You've heard me say 1,000,000 times over, African people cannot go into the space of another culture and not be rejected or at least questioned. In fact, most of us would not dare go anyway because we know we're not wanted. The Charleston Race Massacre of 2015, and our heart goes out to the Reverend Pinckney, Clemente Pinckney, and all the others, and the 6 mothers who died in the Charleston Race Massacre. Our heart goes out to the Charleston, South Carolina community. I know we're still grieving from that loss almost 7 years later. But what hurts me the most about Charleston is it was totally avoidable. Charleston was totally avoidable. The problem with Charleston and the problem with us as a people is we allow non-Africans to walk amongst us and we offer no questions. We offer no questions. For those of us who are holding events, for those of us who have organizations, for those of us who belong to churches, fraternities, sororities, professional organizations, when somebody shows up who don't look like you, somebody, security, hospitality, somebody, it should automatically consider it their responsibility to police the non-Africans who come amongst us. Can you step outside for a minute? Because you're not a member of the community, I need to see your photo ID. We need to take a picture of your photo ID because you're not a member of this community. But, no buts. You're not a member of this community. We cannot deny you access because we receive government funding. We cannot deny you access because we're still on the government's breast. The same government we claim don't love us, we're constantly begging them for funding. The same government we claim don't love us, we're constantly begging them for funding. So we can't turn you away. We will lose our funding if we turn you away because we're not independent. We don't do things the way Garvey did them. We don't do things the way Ifatunde does them. We believe in government subsidy. So we can't turn you away. But we need to see photo ID, and we have to take a picture of your photo ID. If you cannot let us know who you are, you have to leave here because we are not familiar with you. All the black people, we're familiar with them. We're not familiar with you. You're a stranger to this organization. We need to see your photo ID or we have to ask you to leave. What's so hard about that? What is so hard about that? What is so hard about asking to see photo ID of the non-Africans who come into your spaces? Black America, the colorblind days are over. We're not asking you to hate nobody. We're not asking you to hurt nobody. We're not asking you to hate. We're not asking you to hurt. We're asking you to be so concerned about African life. We're asking you to hold African life so dear and so sacred that when someone who doesn't look like us comes amongst us, they are pulled to the side and questioned as to their intent for being there. I know you're getting government funding, so you can't send them away. I know you're getting government grants, so you can't send them away. I know you're getting corporate subsidies. I know you're in love with the white dollar. I know you still think you can build black power with the white dollar. I know you still think you can build black power with the white dollar. I know you still think you can build black power with the white dollar. So I know you can't tell them they're not welcome, but you can at least question their motive and you can at least get a photo of their ID. You can at least do that, my colorblind, Jesus loves everybody Negroes. You can at least have some security protocol. Don't be so colorblind. Don't be so pathologically integrationist that you won't even question the non-Africans amongst you. That's point number one. Point number two. Brothers and sisters, contact your local chapter of the new Black Panther Party. Contact your local chapter of the Fred Hampton Gun Club. Contact your local chapter of the Huey P. Newton Gun Club and tell them you need some training. Tell them you need some training. And to the other Black organizations out there who are responsibly training Black people in the art of self-defense. See, this is why nobody can say nothing to me about the original Black Panther Party or the new Black Panther Party. You can't say nothing to me because their purpose in securing African life and teaching Africans how to secure their life is so very important. The Black Panther Party of 1966 is one of the most relevant organizations ever created in this country. Long live Huey P. Newton. Long live our Prentice Bunchy Carter. Long live John Huggins. Long live Geronimo Pratt. Long live Fred Hampton. Long live George Jackson. Long live Jonathan Jackson. Long live all the Black Panthers who were taken from us. They knew that the security of the African family was of most preeminent importance. Shout out to the INFAC. Shout out to the INFAC as well. Grandmaster J, hold your head. Grandmaster J, hold your head. Grandmaster J, hold your head. But for the INFAC formation, we need y'all to be a lot more security conscious in terms of who you letting in your ranks. Same thing with the Panther Brothers, but they already on it. Same thing with the Huey Newton Gun Club and the Fred Hampton Gun Club and all the other Black militias. You got to organize us, but be careful who you let in your ranks. Be careful who you let in your ranks, because the FBI is working on creating a sabotage campaign within the Black militia movement. The FBI is working on creating a Black sabotage campaign within the Black militia movement. We must be organized. You organize or you die. It's that simple. Getting back to my point. Brothers and sisters, when you go out into the world, if there's no security there, think twice about going. If you're going to a supermarket and they ain't got no security or inadequate security, you going to the movie theater, they ain't got no security or inadequate security. You going to a nightclub, you going to an outdoor, security is of the utmost important. Churches, the Black church, which is the biggest collective institution in Black America, needs security. I know almost no Black churches that have real security. How can the Black church not have real security? The Black church must have real security. All the money y'all stealing from Black folks. All the money y'all stealing from Black folks. All the money the Black church is stealing from Black folks right now because today is Sunday. Right now because today is Sunday. Right now, because today is Sunday, all the money that the Black church is stealing from the Black community, and you don't have a security team, you don't have armed guards, undercover or above cover, you don't have armed guards, undercover or above cover. You don't have armed guards, undercover or above cover. That doesn't make no sense for the billions of dollars that we pour into a Black church every single Sunday, every single year. That got to change. Black organizations. You cannot have a public event and you don't have people there to secure the lives of our people. I have security at every event. There's women and children and elders. We got to be down. And Black men, you have a responsibility to be armed at every event you go to, because you are automatically de facto security. Listen to me, Black man. Since we claim to be alpha, we want to be respected as the divine masculine principle the creator manifested us to be. Every black man is an unofficial security guard everywhere you go. If you are licensed to carry, you need to be carrying. If you are able to carry, you need to be carrying. Every black man is automatic security. Stop taking chances without safety. Our condolences to the families of the Buffalo Massacre of 2022. Our condolences to the family of the Buffalo Massacre of 2022. 7 years, almost 7 years to the day. 7 years minus 35 days to the day of the Dylann Roof Massacre. Is there a relationship between the Charleston, South Carolina Massacre of June 2015 and the Buffalo, New York Race Massacre of May 2022? Is there a relationship between the Charleston, South Carolina Race Massacre of June 2015 and the Buffalo, New York Race Massacre of May 2022? Yes, there is. Yes, there is. Peyton mentioned Dylann in his manifesto. Peyton mentioned Dylann in his manifesto. Peyton mentioned Dylann in his manifesto. That's not a coincidence. That's not a coincidence. It's also not a coincidence that he was only 35 days away from the exact day, June 17th, of the Charleston Race Massacre of 2015. What does Dr.UMAR think is going on? And I want to bring Kyle Rittenhouse into this equation. I want to bring Kyle Rittenhouse into this equation. And we're going to call that the Kenosha Race Massacre that almost happened. The Kenosha Race Massacre that almost happened. Kyle Rittenhouse and the Kenosha Race Massacre that almost happened. Kyle Rittenhouse and the Kenosha Race Massacre that almost happened. Let's look at the coincidences. Let's look at the coincidences. All three of these race terrorists were children. All three of these race terrorists were children, or you can say young adult. Dylann Roof, 21 years old. Punk Peyton, 18 years old. Kyle Rittenhouse, 18 years old. Let's do the math. Kyle Rittenhouse, the Kenosha Race Massacre that almost happened, 18 years old. Peyton Gendron, whatever his last name is, 18 years old. Dylann Roof, Charleston, South Carolina, 21 years old. I believe Dylann Roof had a manifesto. Peyton had a manifesto. I don't know if Kyle had a manifesto. Let me tell you what I think is going on. Let me tell you what I believe is going on. I believe the old school white supremacy cells. White supremacy operates in cells. They coordinated, but they are decentralized. White supremacy operates in cells. They are coordinated, but they are decentralized. What I mean by that, what I mean by that is the reason racism is decentralized is because you don't want to sacrifice the whole movement for the failure of one cell. You don't want to sacrifice the whole movement for the failure of one cell. You don't want to sacrifice the whole movement for the failure of one cell, so it's decentralized. And you also don't want to expose the minds that are behind the massacre. Dylann Roof admitted indirectly that he did not operate alone. Dylann Roof admitted indirectly that he did not operate alone. Dylann Roof said one of the reasons he did not plead not guilty, one of the reasons he did not initially plead temporary insanity is because he was told by his white supremacist cell leadership that if he wants them to break him out of prison, he must admit to the killings, and he cannot use temporary insanity as a means to get acquitted. Dylann Roof, go do your research. Dylann Roof said, because right now Dylann Roof just came off of an appeal. Dylann Roof just came off an appeal last year on temporary insanity. It did not work. So now his lawyers are about to appeal again. He has about 3 more appeals before he can be executed. Dylann Roof has about 3 more appeals before he can be executed. And his attorneys are using temporary insanity. And Dylann Roof is saying the reason he did not originally plead not guilty under temporary insanity is because he was told by the white supremacists they would not get him out of jail if he did not proudly take responsibility for the murder. If Dylann Roof acted alone, who are these others? If Dylann Roof acted alone, who are these others? If Dylann Roof acted alone, who are these others who promised him an escape from prison? And why isn't the U.S. Justice Department investigating the others involved in the Dylann Roof massacre? Why isn't the FBI, Homeland Security, U.S. DOJ, why are they not investigating the others who Dylann Roof is implicating in his massacre? Because if they are willing to break you out, how did you know they were willing to break you out? Did they tell you this before the Charleston killings? Did they tell you this while you were running away from Charleston before the police took you to McDonald's? Okay? Did they tell Dylann Roof this when they were planning the Charleston massacre? Did they tell Dylann Roof this in the aftermath of the Charleston massacre? Did they tell Dylann Roof they was going to break him out of jail after he was incarcerated? Who told Dylann Roof we're going to get you out of prison as long as you own up to the murders? Dylann Roof did not act alone. Punk Payton did not act alone. He didn't act alone. If he was so mentally unhealthy, if Payton was so mentally unhealthy, how was he able to plead not guilty when he was arraigned the night of the Buffalo murders last night? He did not act alone. I don't think Kyle Rittenhouse acted alone. I believe that the older white supremacists and the mid-age white supremacists are recruiting their babies. They are bringing in their children. They are recruiting the youth to carry out their agenda. It is no coincidence that they are so young. It's no coincidence that they are so young. When you look at their history, Punk Payton, I'll call him PG, he went to community college. I think Dylann Roof was in college at some, Kyle Rittenhouse. They don't come from a background that suggests you was born and raised to be part of a terrorist operation. Their background doesn't suggest that. Their background sounds like they were going to go to college, become a doctor, lawyer, engineer, get a good job, start a family, and live happily ever after. Their background does not suggest that their life was headed for this type of a trajectory. That means they were recruited. They were recruited. Dylann Roof was a Ponzi. Peyton Gendron, a Ponzi. Kyle Rittenhouse, a Ponzi. Many more Ponzis. They did not come up with this plan. They did not write these manifestos on their own. And when they claim that they got the idea from other killers in other countries, as Punk Peyton claims, that's a lie. That's a distraction. That's the setup for the setup. That's the underlay for the overplay. Where did you get the idea? Well, I was watching massacres in other countries. I was watching massacres in other cities, and I got the idea. That's not true. Because you would have got the idea from the video games you play. That's not true. You would have got the idea from the video games you play. That's not true. You would have got the idea from the video games you play. You did not get this idea from seeing other massacres on the television. Yes, there is an influence that media exerts on human behavior. Yes, there is an influence that media exerts on human behavior. But if that's the case, you would have been killing folks at 15 and 16. You were recruited. And part of your commitment to any secret society, part of your commitment to any secret society, part of your commitment to any secret society, part of your commitment to any secret society is a pledge of complete confidentiality. Part of your commitment to any secret society is a pledge of complete confidentiality. If Dylann Roof snitches, if Peyton Gendron snitches, if Kyle Rittenhouse snitches, they know what will happen to their families. They are part of a much larger movement. The FBI knows it. The FBI knows there's a bigger white terrorist, white supremacist cell operating in this country that's using their children to do their dirty work. They're using their children to do their dirty work. What should we do? Be armed wherever you go. What should we do? Organize ourselves. What should we do? Don't go anywhere by yourself, and don't go anywhere where you don't see security. Stop at the front door and ask yourself, is there enough security here? And if there's not enough security there, you don't need to be going by yourself. We've had movie theaters shot up, shopping malls shot up, schools shot up. And guess what? We still don't have enough security in the black community to protect black people inside of institutions because we are still willing to gamble our life. We are still willing to take gambles with the safety of other African people. We have to cut it out. And I would even argue that the judge in the Kyle Rittenhouse supports these white terrorists, supports them by the way he defended Kyle Rittenhouse and by how Kyle Rittenhouse got acquitted. They support these young white killers coming into the black community committing genocide. They support these young white killers coming into the black community committing genocide. Now, let me go to President Biden for a minute. Let me go to President Biden for a minute. President Joe Biden. President Joe Biden. About a year ago, in March, there were some parlor murders in Atlanta. Approximately 8 Asian women lost their lives in 3 separate parlor shootings in the Atlanta metropolitan area. It took place in March, maybe the 17th. Don't quote me on the date. Our condolences to those who lost life. Within 72 hours of the Atlanta parlor murders, Within 72 hours of the Atlanta Parlor murders, within 72 hours of the Atlanta Parlor murders, the president and vice president of the United States were in Atlanta meeting with the Asian community. Let me say this again. 8 Asian women lost their life in Atlanta. Our condolences to the families. Within 72 hours of the Atlanta Parlor murders, the president of the United States and the vice president of the United States were on the ground in Atlanta meeting with the Asian American community within 72 hours of the massacre. So my question to President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, my question to President Joe Biden and to Vice President Kamala Harris, my question to the chief of all police in the U.S., President Joe Biden, and the assistant chief of all police, commander in charge and assistant commander in charge of this country. Are you going to keep the same energy for our Buffalo, New York family? Are you going to keep the same energy for our African Buffalo, New York family that you had for the Atlanta Asian family? Are you going to keep the same energy for the Africans of Buffalo, New York that you had for the Asians of Atlanta, Georgia? If President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris are not in Buffalo within 72 hours, counting from 3 p.m. yesterday when the massacre happened, if the president and vice president are not on the ground in Buffalo meeting with the black community within 72 hours of 3 p.m. yesterday, I better not catch a Negro. I better not see a Negro nowhere in the United States at any election poll on November the 3rd voting for any Democrats, black or white. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it again. If they are not in Buffalo in 72 hours of yesterday, just like you flew to Atlanta within 72 hours, just like you flew to Atlanta in 72 hours, President Biden and Vice President Harris, we want the same energy for Buffalo, New York. You better be on the ground. Yesterday was Saturday, 3 p.m., Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Tuesday by 3 p.m., Air Force One better be landing at the Buffalo International Airport. By 3 p.m. Tuesday, Air Force One better be landing in Buffalo, New York International Airport, or you, sir, although you already are a complete fraud and a hypocrite. A complete fraud and a hypocrite. Kamala Harris, you too. You too. You too. If you can fly to Atlanta to honor the life of 8 Asian women, you better damn sure be able to fly to Buffalo, New York and honor the life of 11 Africans who happen to be members of the race that built this country. They are relatives of those who built this country. They are members of the African family who laid the bricks, planted the cotton, cured your tobacco, raised your kids, suckled your babies. These ain't just anybody. These are members of the African family that gave birth to this country, that built this country for 242 years of unpaid labor and unrestituted dehumanization. I said 242 years of unpaid labor and unrestituted dehumanization. So you better go to Buffalo. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. If you can do it for the Asians, you can do it for the Africans. If you can fly to Atlanta at the drop of a hat to honor the life of 8 Asian women, and I have no problem with you doing it, you better be able to go to Buffalo, New York at the drop of a hat and honor the life of 11 Africans who are members of the family of African people who were brought here to build your nation. You better be in Buffalo by 3 o'clock Tuesday. You better be in Buffalo by 3 o'clock Tuesday. You better be in Buffalo by 3 o'clock Tuesday. And not only that, President Biden invites President Harris. Not only that, President Biden and Vice President Harris. Not only that, President Biden and Vice President Harris. Within 8 weeks of the Atlanta PHILA murders, within 8 weeks of the Atlanta PHILA murders, you had signed an executive order against Asian hate. You signed an executive order against Asian hate. Within less than 8 weeks, you signed an executive order against Asian hate. Within 8 weeks, there was a COVID-19 hate crimes bill. And within 8 weeks, there was a White House initiative on Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. 3 pieces of legislation came out of the U.S. government less than 8 weeks after the murder of 8 Asian women in Atlanta. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that. But if you can do that for them, you better do it for us. I want an executive order on anti-American African hate. I want an executive order on anti-American African hate. I want an executive order on anti-American African hate. I want a hate crimes bill just for black people. Don't give me that Emmett Till anti-lynching bill nonsense. Don't give me that Emmett Till anti-lynching bill nonsense, because we done already went over that. I done already dissected that. It is weak and soft as butter. It is weak and soft as butter. And the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill applies to everybody, not just black people. The Emmett Till anti-lynching bill applies to everybody, not just black people. The Federal Hate Crimes Act applies to everybody, not just black people. But the Anti-Asian Hate Executive Order is just for Asians. The COVID-19 Anti-Hate Crimes Act, that's just for Asians. The White House Initiative on Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, that's just for Asians. I want an anti-American African executive order. Anti-American African hate executive order. I want an American African hate crimes bill, just like you did for the Asians. I want an American African anti-hate crimes bill, just like you did for the Asians. And I want a White House initiative on the safety, security, and success of American Africans. And I will voluntarily draft it for you, President Biden. I will draft it for you. I want a White House initiative on the safety, security, and success of American Africans. There you go right there. There you go. We want a White House initiative on the safety, security, and success of American Africans. There we go right there. Oh, yes. Let's watch the White House, because, see, the Congressional Black Caucus is counting down to November. You have June, July, August, September, October. You got 5 months, Congressional Black Caucus. You got 5 months, Congressional Black Caucus. I suggest you have a meeting with your commander-in-chief before November. I suggest that the Congressional Black Caucus take a walk down Pennsylvania Avenue and go have a conversation with your commander-in-chief. Because if we don't get that American African hate crimes bill, executive order, and White House initiative, just like the Asians got, nobody voting for none of y'all. We ain't voting for none of y'all. We ain't voting for none of y'all. We're going to have our own candidates in the Bishop Turner National Independent Black Political Movement. I said we're going to have our own candidates in the Bishop Turner National Independent Black Political Movement. We're going to have our own candidates in the Bishop Turner National Independent Black Political Movement. If you're trying to be down with the movement, send me an email, btnibpm@yahoo.com. btnibpm DrP.O.P.A@yahoo.com. That's the Bishop Turner National Independent Black Political Movement. It's time to organize. It's time to organize. We running our own candidates. We might sneak attack y'all with an all right in, but I don't want to give all the secrets. We're not going to give all the secrets out. We're not going to give out all the secrets of the Bishop Turner National Independent Black Political Movement. If you want to run for Congress as a U.S. rep or U.S. senator in your district, if you want to run for an independent spot, you must be independent. You must push the platform of the Bishop Turner National Independent Black Political Movement. If you want to run for Congress or support somebody running, BTNIBPM at Yahoo. BTNIBPM@yahoo.com. It's not a moment, it's a movement. It's not a moment, it's a movement. It's not a moment, it's a movement. And PHILA is running the point guard. I'm the point guard of the Black political renaissance. I'm the point guard of the Black political renaissance. Now that we've dealt with Biden and Harris, now that we've dealt with Biden and Harris, I want everybody to be clear that the U.S. government is protecting the larger white supremacy cell that's behind Dylann Roof, Kyle Rittenhouse, Peyton Gedrin, and others. They know this is bigger than what they are reporting. They know this is bigger than what they are reporting. Can I ask you all a question? With all these acts of racial terrorism, can I ask you all a question? With all these acts of racial terrorism, why hasn't the FBI busted open? Why hasn't Homeland Security exposed a single major white supremacist cell in this century? Can you answer that for me? 22 years in the 21st century. We are 22 years in the 21st century. We are 22 years in the 21st century, and the U.S. government has not yet busted wide open a single major white racial terrorism organization. Don't you find that a little bit odd? Don't you find that a little bit odd that they haven't exposed a single major white racial terrorism organization? Don't you find it a little bit odd they haven't exposed a single major human trafficking network? All these black girls being kidnapped, all these black girls being sold on the international market, all this organ theft taking place on the black body, and they haven't exposed a single major human trafficking market. They haven't exposed a single major organ trafficking market. They haven't exposed a single major white terrorism, white racial terrorism organization. You know why? Because they are funding them. They are creating them. The Ku Klux Klan cooperated with the FBI in the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The Ku Klux Klan of Tennessee cooperated with the FBI. They cooperated with the FBI. I don't know the extent of their involvement, but the Ku Klux Klan cooperated with the FBI in the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So if you think for 1 minute that the FBI isn't working with these white terrorist cells, you are out of your mind. What better way to get rid of black people? What better way to get rid of black people? What better way to get rid of black people than to empower one of these white racial terrorism organizations to do the killing so you can make it look like it was citizens and not the government? What better way to get rid of black folks than to empower the white terrorist cells to do the work and make it look like the government had nothing to do with it? All white supremacy is organized against African life. All white supremacy is organized against African life. All white supremacy is organized against African life, brothers and sisters. You better go watch the first purge. You better go watch Purge 1, Purge Independence Day, First Purge, Last Purge, Forever Purge. The Purge movies clearly show you that the government is behind the mass murders. You don't think these white racial terrorist groups are not the ones killing black people all through the black community? You think all those Chicago killings and Philly killings of black folks, all these unsolved murders, when they got cameras on every corner? You got cameras on every corner. You can catch the drug dealers, but you can't catch the killers. Have y'all ever noticed that? Have you ever noticed that? Isn't it somewhat of a contradiction that the FBI and the police and Homeland Security can always catch the drug dealers, but you can't catch the killers? You know why you can catch the drug dealers in the ghetto? Because they black. You know why you can't catch the killers in the black community? Because most of them are white. That's why you can't catch the killers, because they are killing for you. They are working for you. They are coming in disguised as black people with black masks made of black human flesh. I said these white racist terrorist groups are coming into the black community dressed as black people, disguised as black people with black face masks made of human flesh. Synthetic human flesh or actual human flesh. Hunger Games is real. The Hunger Games are real. The Hunger Games are real, and we are the target. We are the prey. We are the prize. You had better wake up and get serious, brothers and sisters. You had better wake up and get serious, brothers and sisters. Now, as I prepare to close, I want to talk to my Buffalo, New York family. As I prepare to close, I want to talk to my Buffalo, New York family. I have a good relationship with Buffalo, New York. If there's anything going on in Buffalo, if there's a march, if there's a protest, please let your brother PHILA know. I want to come and support. I'll take the 5-hour drive. I'll take the 5-hour drive. I'll take the 5-hour drive. Hit me up, please. 215-989. You know the number. Hit me up. I will take the drive. Before I talk to my Buffalo, New York, I want to make a couple of announcements. And I want to talk very seriously and very candidly to Buffalo, New York, because you have to learn from the mistakes of Minneapolis, Minnesota, the George Floyd protests. You have to learn from the mistakes of Charleston, South Carolina. The Charleston, South Carolina race massacre of 2015, learn from the mistakes. You got to learn from the mistakes of the Michael Brown protest, the Tamir Wright protest, the Eric Garner protest, the Sandra Bland protest, the Philando Castile, the Alton Sterlings. You have to learn. I want to tell you where I think we went wrong with all the other protests. I want Buffalo, New York to get it right. Let me talk to my Buffalo family, to the city of Buffalo, New York, to the Africans of Buffalo, New York. I want to give you 5 things you need to do. As the entire world has their light focused on you, you're only going to have it for 2 weeks. Listen to me well, Buffalo, New York. The attention span of the media is very brief. And the only reason why the media is covering the Buffalo massacre is because of the shock value it has. They do not care about black people. The same media that's covering Buffalo, New York will protect white police when they kill black people. The same media that's covering the Buffalo massacre of Buffalo, New York will defend the police when they kill black folks. Okay? So Buffalo, New York, you got 2 weeks counting from yesterday. You got 2 weeks counting from yesterday to make this attention that is being shown on your city count. Because I want my 11 brothers and sisters who passed away. I want my 11 brothers and sisters who passed away. I don't want their lives to be in vain. I do not want their lives to be lost in vain. I want you to honor their life so much that this begins a transformative revolution for political, economic, social, educational change for African people in America by way of Buffalo, New York. And why should it not happen in Buffalo, New York? Why should it not start in Buffalo, New York? Because Buffalo, New York is where many of our greatest revolutionary black conventions took place. Buffalo, New York is where some of our greatest revolutionary black conventions took place, in Buffalo, New York. The Fugitive Slave Convention was in Buffalo, New York. Yes. The Black Negro Conventions was in Buffalo, New York. Buffalo, New York has a lot of great black revolutionary history. So I'm counting on Buffalo, New York. I'm counting on Buffalo, New York to get this right this time. Buffalo, New York. Do not let the media limit this massacre, this tragedy, to this one man who shot and killed 11 Africans. Make sure y'all broaden the conversation. Broaden the conversation from the massacre, the unjustified loss of life of 11 Africans, to the oppression of thousands of black people in Buffalo, New York. Widen the scope, intensify the movement. Buffalo, don't keep this about punk Peyton Gendron. Don't let the media keep a small scope. You want the media to open the lens. Let's talk about unemployment in Buffalo, New York. Let's talk about mass incarceration in Buffalo, New York. Let's talk about miseducation in Buffalo, New York. Let's talk about gentrification in Buffalo, New York. Let's talk about police brutality in Buffalo, New York. Let's talk about economic apartheid in Buffalo, New York. Buffalo, New York. Buffalo, New York. Listen to your big brother, Tunde. Make sure you force the conversation about systemic change for black people in Buffalo. Your mayor is not going to do that. He's owned by the white power structure. No disrespect to the brother. No disrespect, but let's call a spade a spade. He's owned by the white power structure. He's not going to do it. He's not going to do it. The grassroots community of Buffalo, New York needs to use this time where the whole world is focused on this massacre and force the conversation about economics, force the conversation about politics, force the conversation about corruption, force the conversation about police brutality, force the conversation about mass incarceration, force the conversation about economic genocide. Buffalo, New York, do not let them keep this issue focused on Peyton Gendron. Don't do it. Don't make the mistake that other brothers and sisters made with these riots and rebellions that never became revolutions. These riots and rebellions that never became revolutions. These riots and rebellions that never became revolutions. Buffalo, New York, please don't fumble your opportunity to bring true justice, freedom, and equality to the brothers and sisters in North New York, upstate New York. Next up, Buffalo, do not make this a multicultural initiative. Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I love my Minneapolis Africans, it became multicultural. Don't make this a multicultural. This is about black Buffalo. That's it. It ain't about poor Buffalo. It ain't about multicultural Buffalo. It ain't about minority Buffalo. It's about black Buffalo, New York. That's number 2. Number 3, what is the platform of Buffalo, New York? What do y'all want to change? What are your major problems? 10 key demands. Give them to the media. Give them to the media today. 10 key demands. Give them to the media. Give them to the media today. You must have a platform. That's number 3. Number 4, Black Buffalo. Number 4, Black Buffalo. Who are your spokespersons? You only need 2. No more than 2. They better be grassroots. They better not be getting no government funding, no corporate handouts. And they need to be economically independent. If they work for white folks, they cannot be the spokesperson. Who is going to be the voice of articulation? Who's going to Transfer the concerns of Black Buffalo to the media, to the governor, to the mayor, to the city council. Who are your spokespersons? Can you trust your spokespersons? Don't choose no bourgeoisies. I recommend you get a brother and sister right out of jail. There should be a man and a woman to keep the balance of African energy equal. There should be a man and a woman to keep the balance of African energy equal. There should be a man and a woman to keep the balance of African energy equal. There should be a man and a woman, no more than two. No more than two. A man and a woman. Independent economically. They are not a part of the Democratic Party. They don't belong to no Masonic lodges, no elk tribes, no fraternities, no sororities, no cliques, no none of that. No grants, no handouts, no corporate hustles, none of that. Get you some ex-offenders. Get you some ex-offenders and let them be the spokespersons for Black Buffalo, New York. Stop getting bourgeoisies trained at the white university. Stop getting bourgeoisies trained at the white university. Stop getting bourgeoisies trained at the white university. Number five. Organize. Organize. Energize, organize, mobilize. Energize, organize, mobilize. Where are the meetings? There needs to be a meeting every night, a town hall meeting for Black Buffalo every night starting tonight. Every night starting tonight, a town hall meeting for Black Buffalo, New York. If y'all going to rotate it, y'all need to make sure y'all putting it out on social media, handing it out on handbills so the people know. Every Monday we meet here. Every Tuesday we meet here. Every Wednesday we meet here. Every Thursday they meet here. You need to get organized. Let the people know what's going on. Start committees. Come on, Buffalo. Come on, Buffalo. We need somebody to get it right. All the other rebellions did not become revolutions because we were not organized. All the other rebellions did not become revolutions because they were multicultural. All the other rebellions did not become revolutions because they were led by the bourgeoisie. All the other rebellions did not become revolutions because there was no platform. All the other rebellions did not become revolutions. They did not organize the people. They did not organize the people. They did not organize the people. Brothers and sisters, my heart goes out. I saw the video. And those videos need to be redacted. Cover up the faces of the Africans. I don't want any family member to see how their relatives lost their life on this earth plane. I don't want them to see that. Please be respectful of our African family and those closest to those who passed on. Redact the video. Put black marks over the faces, the whole body. I don't want anybody to look at that video and see how they lost their loved ones. I don't want them to see that. That should not be their last memory. That should not be their last memory. Redact the video. You ain't got to get rid of the video. Redact the video. That man was trained to do what he did. Dylan Roof was trained to do what he did. Kyle Rittenhouse was trained to do what they do. White children are as dangerous as white adults and maybe more so. White children are as dangerous as white adults and maybe more so. White children are as dangerous as white adults and maybe more so. Dylan Roof was 21. Kyle and Peyton were 18. Dylan Roof was 21. Kyle and Peyton were 18. Brothers and sisters. Brothers and sisters. Let's get organized. Let's protect ourselves. Let's defend ourselves. Black men, I'm still calling on you to create a transportation system to safely escort black women to work and to home once the sun goes down. We need a sundown transportation system. Who will be the first community to do it? Which group of black men will be the first group of black men to give us? Which group of black men will be the first community of black men to give us a sundown transportation system for black women and black children? These are my preliminary thoughts on the Buffalo, New York race massacre of 2022. These are my preliminary thoughts on the Buffalo, New York race massacre of 2022. Tonight is one of the most powerful nights of this year. We have a full-blood lunar eclipse under the sign of Scorpio. Destroy and rebuild. If we want to destroy the racism and rebuild justice, if we want to destroy the ignorance and rebuild seriousness, if we want to destroy the self-hate and rebuild love, if we want to destroy the dysfunctional black family and recreate a new black community, if we want to destroy the post-traumatic slavery disease of the Negropean and recreate a conscious African, tonight is the night. Eclipse begins at 9:30. Full eclipse is at 11:39, I think it is. Full eclipse at 11:39, and the total eclipse isn't over until 2 a.m. So you got from 9 to 2, but you really want to focus on the full eclipse. That's when the sun totally blocks, that's when the earth is right between the sun and the moon. The lunar eclipse is when the earth blocks the rays of the sun from getting the moon. We go into darkness. We go into a period of darkness. We got to go into the dark to rediscover the light. In African culture, darkness and light are not opposites. In African culture, darkness and light are not opposites. In African culture, darkness and light are not opposites. They coexist. They are the yin and the yang. They are the A and the B. They are the up and the down, the top and the bottom. You go into the dark to rebirth the light. So the Scorpio full blood lunar eclipse is asking all African people in the world to go into the dark, to find your God self and bring it up to the light. It's the lotus flower. The lotus flower goes into the dark at night. And then when the sun rises in the day, it busts through the darkness and reaches the light. That's why the lotus flower is so prized in our traditional Nile Valley African Kemetic spiritual culture, brothers and sisters. I will be meditating tonight for African liberation. I will be meditating tonight for the success of FDMG. I will be meditating tonight for the vengeance. That's right. Vengeance of and on behalf of and for all my African brothers and sisters who lost their sacred blood in Buffalo, New York last night. And I'm going to say two more things. Buffalo, New York. And to the families who are grieving, give our family space to grieve. Give our family space to grieve. Give our Buffalo, New York families space to breathe. But let me say this. I hope to God that none of us are so quick to jump on the television. I hope to God that no African in Buffalo is so quick to jump on the television and forgive the killer. Please, let's not do that this time. Can we please not forgive the killer this time? Buffalo, New York, I'm begging you, Buffalo. Buffalo, New York, I am begging you. Don't do what we did in so many of the other cities. Please don't get on the news and say you forgive Peyton Gendron for taking the life of 11 innocent Africans. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. If you do that, you make it easy for him to get a not guilty by means of temporary insanity. If you do that, they'll never value black life. They'll never take us seriously. Stop forgiving our enemies on television, in newspaper, in radio. Stop. If you feel you have to forgive your enemies, do it in your heart. Don't do it outside in front of white folks. If you gotta forgive the people who murder us in cold blood, which I think is absolutely ridiculous anyway, but if you have to forgive your killers, don't do it in front of white folks. I'm asking Buffalo, New York, please don't wave the surrender flag and start forgiving people who kill us. We want justice. We want conviction. We want the death penalty. I said it. We want justice. We want conviction. We want the death penalty. I said it. We want justice. We want conviction. We want the death penalty. If you can murder in cold blood, you deserve to be murdered in cold blood. I don't believe in loss of life, brothers and sisters, but I am sick and tired of people thinking they can take African life and get away with it. I support the death penalty for racially motivated murders. And that's why I don't support the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act, because it only gives you a maximum of 30 years in prison. The Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Bill only gives you a maximum of 30 years in prison. The Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Bill gives a maximum penalty of 30 years in prison. Dylan Roof better not get no 30 years. Punk Payton better not get no 30 years. They deserve the death penalty. But I want to say this, brothers and sisters. I want to say this, brothers and sisters. I want to say this, brothers and sisters. I believe that if Donald Trump is reelected, even if he's not reelected, I believe that the conservative Supreme Court, see, Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, she's a liberal, but most of them on the bench are conservatives. Especially when it comes to black folks, they all conservative. I believe if Dylan Roof appeal reaches the U.S. Supreme Court, if Dylan Roof's appeal reaches the U.S. Supreme Court, if Dylan Roof's appeal reaches the U.S. Supreme Court, I believe they might overturn his death sentence on the grounds of temporary insanity. I believe if Dylan Roof's appeal of his death sentence reaches the U.S. Supreme Court, because it is a predominantly conservative bench, I believe they will overturn Dylan Roof's death sentence and give him life in prison or even less on the grounds of temporary insanity. I'm serious, brothers and sisters. That's why we got to keep our eye on the Dylan Roof case, keep our eyes on the Pagin Gendron race. That's why the Kyle Rittenhouse acquittal was so significant. That's why the Kyle Rittenhouse acquittal was so significant, brothers and sisters. And let me say this, because you got a lot of Republicans out there. You got a lot of Republicans. To the Republicans, let me say this to the Republicans. Donald Trump signed the execution warrant for more federal executions than any president in the past century, and arguably the most of any president in American history. Let me say this again. Donald Trump signed more federal death warrants, executions of people on death row. Donald Trump signed more federal death warrants, execution activation for more people than any president since the end of slavery, and possibly the most of any president in history. So for Negroes running around saying we need to reelect Donald Trump, I'm not reelecting Donald Trump or Joe Biden. I'm not voting for neither one, because neither one of them values black life. Donald Trump oversaw the execution of, I believe, 13. And black people are disproportionately represented amongst those 13. Black people are disproportionately represented amongst those on federal death row in this country. Donald Trump signed 13, more than any president since the end of slavery, and possibly the most since the founding of the United States. So don't talk to me about no voting for Donald Trump. See, when Donald Trump got Lil Wayne, when Donald Trump commuted Lil Wayne's sentence, and all those other famous blacks, that was a distraction. Donald Trump, that was a distraction. The only reason why Donald Trump helped those famous black folks during his last days in office, the only reason Donald Trump, Kwame Kilpatrick of Detroit, who we love and respect, Donald Trump commuted his sentence. Lil Wayne, Donald Trump disqualified the charges against Lil Wayne. Nothing against that. But I want y'all to know he did that to distract away from the fact that he was about to kill 13 people, and I'm sure many of them were black. He did the Lil Wayne and the Kwame Kilpatrick thing. No disrespect to them, okay? If you can get out, get out. But he did that to distract away from the fact that he was about to kill 13 people in his final months of office, the most by any president since the end of slavery. It was a setup for a setback. Donald Trump does not respect black life. I will never vote for that man. Joe Biden doesn't respect black life. I will never respect him. How can you support as an Afro-Latino? Get in the movement. Get in the movement. My African Latinos, I treat y'all no different as long as you see yourself no different. My African Puerto Ricans, my African Dominicans, my African Colombians, my African Cubans, If you consider yourself an African, come and wave the flag. That's all you got to do. Come and wave the flag. That's all you got to do. African Cubans, African Puerto Ricans, African Dominicans, if you proud to be African, say it. You can still wave your Dominican flag. You can still wave your Cuban flag. You can still wave your Puerto Rican flag. You can still hold tight to your African Latino roots. But when they say race, you better know who you standing with. You better know what your race is. See, the U.S. military got the Marine Corps, they got the Navy, they got the Army, they got the National Guard, they got the Secret Service. But when they say U.S. defense, all of them come together. In America, you got Italians and you got Jews and you got Irish and you got Germans and you got all kind of white folks in America. But when it's time to defend America, they all come together. So all we saying to our Puerto Rican Africans and Cuban Africans and Dominican Africans is when you see this flag, that means it's time for you to stand in solidarity with your African brothers and sisters because your ancestors came from the same place our ancestors came from. My Puerto Rican sisters, you know how you got that body. My Puerto Rican sisters, you know where you got them 5'5" thick in the thighs. You got them from African ancestors. Let's not act silly. My Puerto Rican and Cuban brothers, where you get that deep voice from? Where you get that deep voice from? Where you get them drums from? Where you get that Santeria spiritual culture and that Palo spiritual culture and that Lukumi spiritual culture? You know it came from Africa. So you got African bodies, you got an African voice, you got African food, you got African music, you got African drums, you got African religion, but you not African? Make it make sense. You got African food, you got an African body, you got African voice, you got African drums, you got African music, but you not African? Make it make sense. Brothers and sisters, again, I apologize for not being able to do the Black Parent Teleconference this morning for reasons of fatigue. I apologize. Juneteenth. If you have a Juneteenth and you want to invite me, get in touch with me. I want to pull up to 2 Juneteenths or 3, Friday and Saturday, Saturday and Sunday, or Friday, Saturday and Sunday. I need some Juneteenths. I want a nice, well-attended Juneteenth. I want to speak to the people. I don't want to go nowhere with 10 people. I want a couple hundred out there. Give me a couple thousand. You're talking to the most relevant scholar in the race right now. Give me an audience and let me speak to the people outside with the sun coming. Leo season is almost here. Leo season is almost here. Cancer season is coming up. This is your brother, Tunde. Rest in paradise to those Africans of Buffalo. Condolences to their families. Buffalo, New York. The whole world is watching you. Don't fumble the ball. Peace and Pan-Africanism.